if you've read a book and then you go see the movie adaptation and you think, that's not how I pictured it in my head, because everybody has a bit of a different picture in their head. So if you're just explaining what you want in very broad terms, someone else could be picturing it completely differently. So you really need to get down into the nitty-gritty of it to make sure that you're actually getting what's in their head out into the real world.
Welcome to Pure Gold Marketing. G'day, I'm Edwin Davis, your host. Join me in this series as I speak with marketing and communications experts from across Australian industry. We'll tap into their vast experience and wisdom to bring you valuable insights and perspectives, and of course, some interesting stories along the way. So join us on Pure Gold Marketing, where every episode is worth its weight in marketing gold. On today's episode, we have got one of our very own, Kit White. Kit joined our team a couple of years back in 2022 as our production assistant, and I'm keen to talk with Kit all about pre-production, planning, what goes into shooting a project. So welcome on the podcast, Kit.
Thank you.
So maybe to start out, do you want to give us a bit of a detail about your background? How did you get into film and video, and then how did you join Pure Gold Films?
Well, I started out actually in feature films and long-form narrative content. So I went to uni, and my first producing class, I just knew like that it was just a fit, you know, that kind of planning and paperwork and logistics, and that's always been kind of my strong suit. So I did a couple of feature films during and after uni, and then that's a very crazy world.
Tell me more about that. What feature films did you work on, and what's involved in those?
So I worked on a couple of small Australian like comedy horror films. The first one was Two Heads Creek in 2018, and then one called Bloody Hell. And then COVID happened, so I didn't have any work for like a year or so. And then I did 13 Lives by Ron Howard. Cool. Then I did Young Rock season 2, and I did a TV show with the ABC called In Limbo, which was really cool. But by the end of it, I was just kind of burnt out and looking for something a little bit less crazy, you know, less like minimum 50 hours a week for 7 months straight.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So what went into organising, like 13 Lives is obviously a massive feature film about what the Thailand cave rescue.
The boys who got stuck in the cave, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So what were you doing on that project?
I was the production secretary, and we had a crew of about 350. Wow. And I think on our biggest day we had like 500 extras. Okay. So it's like 800 people. So I managed like the crew list and all of the crew like onboarding. So, you know, the head of department for any department would be like, oh, we've got a new crew member, here's their email. I'd send them all their paperwork, get their NDAs, medicals, etc. I had all these like spreadsheets. I lived in Excel. Okay.
So a bit bigger than like a corporate video.
Yeah, just a tiny bit. And just making sure everyone had the right documents, everyone had their call sheets and their scripts, and if there were any changes that they got their scripts, and you know, we weren't feeding the actors anything they're allergic to, and just all the stuff that you don't really think about when you watch a movie but that needs to happen. All
the behind the scenes. And so I guess were you working with like multiple different teams?
So I was like basically the point of contact for the whole production department, so people didn't really know what each of our roles were, so they would come to me first with their question, and then I would point them in the right direction. So everybody knew who I was, and everybody when I got out to set would say, oh my God, it's Kit, hi. But you know, that comes with its own stresses, because then people are always contacting you and ringing you first, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, fantastic. So it sounds like you know a thing or two about managing or planning for a shoot, keeping the wheels running. Tell me about like corporate video production. How have you found that? You've been working with Pure Gold now for
like a year and 3 or 4 months. Which is cool. So what's involved in organising and a typical corporate video for a business? So a little bit less than a feature film. I mean, starting from the very initial stage when a company first reaches out to us, I'm kind of the point of contact there, and or you are, and you say, hey Kit, can you do some initial questions for this company? They want a corporate video. And I really do all of the onboarding. So what is it that you're after? Let me put a quote together for you. What's your budget? Might need to ask them a few more questions if they're not quite sure. If they say, oh, we want a video, but we don't have a clear idea.
Yeah. What does that mean? A video could be anything, couldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Is it like, do you want interviews with your staff? Do you want a testimonial with one of your own clients?
Yeah.
Do you want drone? Do you want scripted or natural or...
That's right, yeah. So it's kind of like teasing out all those different, uncovering those different questions. Yeah.
And kind of knowing, I mean, if you've never done video production before, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm. And so why is it important to, take that time to go through that briefing process?
Well, you have to take that time at some point. So it's either going to be in the briefing process or it's going to be when you've already shot everything and you get to post-production and you go, the client goes, oh, that's not what I had in mind.
Yeah.
And you go,
You're
oh,
like,
no.
Crap.
It's a little, I mean, I can kind of liken it to if you've read a book and then you go see the movie adaptation and you think, that's not how I pictured it in my head, because everybody has a bit of a different picture in their head.
Yeah,
so if you're just explaining what you want in very broad terms, someone else could be picturing it completely differently.
Yeah.
So you really need to get down into the nitty-gritty of it to make sure that you're actually getting what's in their head out into the real world.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And now, so a lot of our projects that we work on, in mining or construction, logistics and things like that, they're often out in remote areas, which would involve some kind of travel for the crew to get out there, whether it's a rail line being constructed in central Queensland or a mine site in the Hunter Valley. So what does it take to get a film crew, to get them out there? What are the things involved in travelling? How do we kind of organise all of that with the client and get everything approved and organised?
So first off, we've got to have the dates set in stone, because you don't want to book everything and then have the client go, actually, can we do it the week after? So that's really important, is to get the date sorted with the client, know how you're getting out to site. Can you drive? Is it 2 hours drive from the airport? Is it 5-minute drive? Could the client pick you up if it's really close? Or do you need to hire a car?
And I guess with dates as well, not only the first point of contact being okay with that date, but then the other stakeholders on the site as well.
Exactly.
Hey, whether it's the maintenance crew or the production crew that have an impact on site.
And I think we've had a few times where maybe not everyone on site has been notified, and you get there and they go, oh, that machine that you wanted to film is actually in shutdown, or it's in maintenance, it's not operating right now. And you go, okay, well, what's plan B then? So it's good to have all of that sorted out beforehand. And then you've also got to think about flight times. If it's a 5-hour drive from the airport, do you drive in the day before? Where do you stay?
And flights these days are not particularly predictable, are they? So it's often it's like not worth the risk flying up in the morning.
Exactly.
In case something, if the flight gets bumped, then you've wasted half a day of filming time.
Exactly.
I guess travelling as well with film equipment, video equipment, we've got to keep extra baggage in mind and things like that.
Yeah, it's a big load of stuff, so we need usually 6 bags total. I think is the standard for our shoots, and then you've got to get a nice big car so you can fit everything in.
And so do you give all of that info to a customer when going through that briefing process as well?
And usually I don't really go into the
nitty-gritty
of it, because they don't really care about how many bags we need on the plane. But if sometimes we'll get clients and they'll say oh, we'll book all the travel, and then I have to go into all of that. And usually I prefer for us to book it ourselves, because we know all of that. And I've had one shoot where the client booked the flights and they forgot to book one of the photographer's ticket on the way back, or they forgot to book his extra baggage or something like that, and he had to do it at the airport, and that was really stressful. So I usually just say, look, we'll take care of it.
We know what's involved
on our own end, because we know we've had these experiences and learned from them. So
there's quite a lot to actually get a crew to a site ready to film. How then do you actually brief the camera crew, and what do you go into developing? Like typically there'll be a producer or director on the shoot, so they know the brief and the concept. But yeah, is that important to have that all documented somewhere?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
So you're going to have the call sheet for the logistical side of things, and that'll be based off the brief, and if you've done any storyboards or a video outline or even just a shot list. Sometimes we don't necessarily storyboard, okay, we're going to have this shot and this shot and this shot. We'll just say, here's a bunch of different shots we want to capture, and then in the edit we'll figure out what order they go into. But having that shot list is really important because otherwise you might end up missing something, and then you get to the edit and go, oh, we didn't get a shot of the machine digging, or we didn't actually get any B-roll.
Someone walking around the machine.
This person, we didn't interview them and we didn't get any B-roll. So the shot list is really important, and then I'll take that and I'll put it into a call sheet. So that's kind of like a run sheet or a schedule that has all of the location details, how you're getting to site, where you're parking, what time you get there. Oh, you need to, get there at 8 a.m. and then you've got a site induction, and then at 8:30 you'll travel out to, the location within the site. And
you got to allow enough time for all of that. Hey, because
exactly.
the number of times we're on, particularly on mine site, where people that maybe haven't been on a mine site much will think, oh, like you're only capturing a short video, that won't take you too long, but by the time you get out into the pit, that might be an hour and a half to actually get there, and then old mate's car has to get pulled away to go on something else, so you're waiting for half an hour before you can go to your next location. The induction process and all that sort of thing. So it's
and even just
important,
packing down all of the gear, putting it into the car to drive to the next location, and then unpacking all the gear. That can take quite a bit of time. So especially on mines, you've got to build that buffer into the schedule. And
that's where having that schedule, like you said, that plan that you've got before, like ahead of time, and then you've got time allocated for those shots, and you're not sort of when you come to edit thinking, crap, we didn't get that shot, or we missed out on this or that because you were feeling rushed.
Exactly.
And I guess part of what we do is sort of communicate all of that to the client as well, to let them know, like, actually to set up for an interview, that's probably going to take 20 or 30 minutes to actually get everything ready, and then we might have a chat with a person for 15 or 20 minutes. Before you know it, there goes almost an hour of time.
I think that people who don't have experience, they can just see the end product. They think, oh, it's a 2-minute video, you don't need that long, but they don't realise all the setup time. Like, oh, we need, a 10-second drone shot, but you've got to set up the drone, get it up in the air, line it all up,
That's right. What other sort of areas do you cover in terms of, working with clients, in terms of making sure accounts are all going smoothly and everything's ticking along? What else do you do at Pure Gold as well?
So I do a lot of the accounting as well. Just making sure that we're getting our invoices out on time, and they've got all the correct details in them, and needing to follow. I mean, we work with a lot of big companies, so sometimes they've got really long payment terms. So it's important for me to know, what are your payment terms? Is it 45 days from the end of the month? Is it 60 days from the day you receive the invoice? So that, I know if it's overdue and if I need to chase up.
And that'll make sure there's no kind of hold-ups along the way with getting a video delivered.
Exactly.
Paid or...
because obviously we need to get paid. And we don't want to be like sitting around having delivered the video and not being paid yet for our services. And
tell me, do you have any sort of favourite projects that you've worked on, looking back over the last year, that have stood out for you, or any interesting stories or little nuggets you want to share?
I think Bengala was probably my favourite because I got to travel down to site, and I don't really get to do that.
So what did that involve? What was that project?
That was the biggest project we've done. I think, at Pure Gold, and it took we've just finished it, and it's been like a year since we first started talking about it with them. So we had 5 or 6 trips down there, which was a lot of travel for me to organise. And on one of the trips I got to come down too, to film the machine once it had been completed, doing all the tests and actually walking off the pad to go start digging.
So why would you say, like, because you're typically office-based, why would you say it's important for someone who is normally in the office to get out on site and witness what it's like to be on a shoot and what goes into it?
You can't schedule anything without knowing what it's like and how much time it actually takes.
Yeah.
You can have kind of a theoretical idea of it, but it's always better to have a practical idea, so that you are, not trying to schedule it within a second, and you're leaving that breathing space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's always, there's always a time when you've got to go with the flow.
Yeah.
Something's bound to change with the plan.
Yeah.
The number of times we've had that. And I guess, knowing how long everything takes and all your options, so having that experience of being on site, that's been very cool to have you come on that shoot. So thank you with that. Final question would be, like, what have you found since you've worked with Pure Gold Films, working with these amazing customers that we get to work with in these industries? What have you found as been a highlight or rewarding, or like why do you like kind of working with these sort of projects and customers?
I think that the most rewarding thing is just been that I've gained a lot of confidence. Feature films are very egocentric. You're working with a lot of big egos, and there's a huge crew of 300 people, and you're just kind of like another cog, in the machine. Whereas I feel like at Pure Gold, I really get to connect with the clients more, and we've got a smaller team, so I feel quite valued, and like I've had the opportunity to grow outside of what my role initially was, which you don't really get in film. It's very much a hierarchy, and like stick to your role and don't go outside of that. So I think that's been really nice to have the opportunity to take on a few extra things, and
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast today. It's been very interesting to hear your insights into
It's been a pleasure.
Planning and pre-production, everything that goes into it. So thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode, you can find more on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Hit the subscribe button to get more marketing gold. And also, please share this episode with your colleagues who might find this interesting. You can always find me, Edwin Davis, on LinkedIn, or search Pure Gold Films to find out more about our video production and content services for the Australian industry. Thanks very much, and I'll see you on the next episode.